So all of these requirements, they become what the regulation hope to see. Now, it is one thing that this license is given in terms of AIP. Approval, you are approved in principle. Now, before you even get to the point where you want to go for license, my recommendation is that we face that kind of challenge. In fact, it's not even about license, about an organization being able to do something, and you are not willing to do it. So our sales guys then, and probably you also, will tell us, but this company is able to do this. Usually when organizations come to us and say, then when they say they want to get a particular service, number one is transfer. And we tell them, we can't give you transfer because compliance comes in. So you do not talk about compliance when you have license. You start compliance when you are now. When the activity that you're carrying out now has an external expectation, like the KYC comes in the tiering of KYC, you collect, you don't validate. Some you need to validate. Some you even need to go and visit. So the work of the compliance.
Let's move quickly to licensing, which is where a lot of fintech start getting shivers. Let's just define licensing. What is licensing?
Licensing is like a stamp of approval to be able to do something legally. So there are many teachers, right? But they have a regulator that then give you an approval that you can teach, right? And license comes into play is a function of risk. So the man selling on the road probably poses a little risk compared to the man that has a big shop and that is moving millions every hour. So because of that, the risk that the organization brings to the ecosystem, the regulator in their wisdom says, let's provide some requirements that they must meet so that we can help our customers to be secure, and they also can have a process of doing business. So most of the time, you can actually be a fintech without a license. If we take the literal word and put it apart, it's financial technology, meaning you are infusing technology into financial transaction. Now, the man on the side of the road who is carrying out POS is in financial technology business, but the risk that person brings to the ecosystem is kind of minimal. So if they burgle the house, probably they carry the POS and carry the money that is given out in this POS business, compared to a bank or compared to organizations that they cannot even see that are in the cloud. And because of that risk, regulation says, let's bring some requirements. And what are these requirements? Let's make sure that this business has been in operation for maybe 2 or 3 years or 6 months or whatever. Let's make sure that they have people that are competent in terms of knowledge. Let's make sure that they have money. Let's make sure that they have a board that is looking after what they are doing. Let's make sure that they have risk management and they have policies and processes. So all of these requirements, they become what the regulation hope to see. Now, it is one thing that they see. So that's why they don't give you, not like marriage, that they give you a full certificate. License is given in terms of AIP. Approval, you are approved in principle. Now, before you even get to the point where you want to go for license, my recommendation is that have it in plan, and do some basic things that make you ready for license. Usually when organizations come to us and say, then when they say they want to get a particular service, number one is transfer. And we tell them, we can't give you transfer because the regulator expects you to have some basic requirements. You don't have KYC policy, so how can you tell us you know the customers that are coming? So they will come and they will get bills payment and they will get recharge card. So those two services we provide for them. But over time, they prove that they can manage those two business areas and then they approach this the central bank for some kind of approval in principle request for license. Now, the CBN can see that they've been transacting, and they can actually show it. And put yourself in the shoe of the regulator, that you come to me as not having anything, or you come to me as having something that you have done, and therefore you want to move ahead. So that's where a lot of people are not ready to show some evidence of what they can do before they go for the full-blown license. And again, to get license is easier. To maintain license is the most difficult.
You have to say that again, please. You said to get license
is easier. To maintain it is the most difficult.
Thank you. So you've answered one of the questions I had about when the right time is for a fintech to approach licensing. You see some people waiting until they have lots of transactions, right? And they are achieving that status of the processing they are doing by many partnerships. And you see people that just started the other day, and they get and they're trying to get a license, either, a PSSP or something. So I'm wondering, do you have anything to add to what you've said before about when a fintech saying, we're ready for a license?
Yeah, so we face that kind of challenge. In fact, it's not even about license, about an organization being able to do something, and you are not willing to do it. So our sales guys then, and probably you also, will tell us, but this company is able to do this thing. Why are we not doing it? And I will tell them that the risk we carry is different from their own risk. So if for instance, if I tell you that there are organizations that have set some money aside to just silence the customer when they come up to make noise, that they don't want to even have that kind of conversation. They just want to say, my money is missing, they just refund you. Now, you don't have that kind of war chest. You don't have that kind of management posture. How then can you address those kind of challenges? So this is what I recommend, really. If you run the race of competing with other people, you might miss your way. Now, what exactly is your strategy in business in terms of the type of license you want to get? That needs to be clear, because if you abandon your own path and start monitoring what the other person has gotten, you will go and get a license you actually cannot maintain, or that will be a waste. And when you get a license you can't keep and you don't use, by the time you are ready for another one, the regulator will ask you, the one you got last time, what did you do with it? So prepare your house before you go. First, you don't have a compliance officer. You don't have a risk management team. And you are going for a license. And those are the people that will help you to keep that license. So basic things that you need to do, housekeeping, is have your process in place, have at least a compliance officer, have a risk management team. Then with their requirements, I know again, people can download requirements online. They are not difficult, they are just documents. Yeah. But you have to be clear that those requirements, you are going to meet them. And that's where the real work is. So evaluate yourself to be able to do all of those things, and then you can proceed. But again, the choice is yours in terms of whether you want to do it right, or again, these things have a way of coming back. If you don't set those basic foundation in place, you are going to struggle when you have that license.
Okay. Thank you. I like these conversations to be as real as possible, because, there is what is on the CBN website, and there's what is the nice to have. Like CBN tells us, the nice to have is when you have a dispute for a customer, you must reverse it in 24 hours. All of us say they work. It's not true. So the real talk on the street is, the reason why I'm chasing this license, and that's what X, Y, and Z have told me in our various sessions, is that investors are not taking me seriously. I'm pulling a lot of transactions, and I need money for my runway. My runway is, getting smaller. I have 6 months, in the bank, money in the bank to pay salaries. And we need this investment. See this other fintech that came up the other day. I don't even know what they are doing. They're giving them $1 million. This other one they're giving, and they're saying it's because I don't have license, so I shall go get a license. So this is the street perspective, right? So let's say like there's somebody I couldn't convince the person, to refrain from getting a license because partnership was working very well for the person, right? When a fintech now gets a license, how do you advise that they structure their shop to navigate, operating that license properly? What are your thoughts?
All right. So every license has requirements, right? The first thing is to so you have submitted some documents to the regulator. They have a copy of it. Now, my position is that you should submit what you can meet. So those documents, you need to then come and operationalize it. Operationalizing means that you identify the team that is in charge of risk management, the team that is in charge of compliance, legal, operations, HR, technology, all of those requirements that is in that plenty document that you submitted. Make it a BAU, right? The regulator has said that you must submit a report every month. Who is responsible for that report? Make it as part of their BAU. And once you expect them to do it, monitor that they are doing it. So that when it's time for renewal of your license or even surveillance audit, or even, you were jokingly asking whether our day went well, no fraud and the rest. Something like that can trigger a regulator's visit. We've been in the office on Thursday, and on Friday, we're hearing that CBN is coming on Monday. If you have not kept your house in order, you are going to discover that even from walking into the door of your gate, the regulator has started their evaluation of your organization, because your physical security itself could be a risk to the transaction that is going on in your data center. So you just have to
saying that.
just have to break down all of those requirements and make it a BAU. And usually once you make it a BAU and people can carry them out every time, again, regulator is not expecting you to be perfect. So that's why compliance is also a journey, it's not a destination. There's nobody that can come and tell you, I am 100% compliant. You can be yesterday, but in the next 1 minute, you cannot tell what has happened. So compliance to license or regulation is a journey. But what the regulator is looking for is that you have the commitment to meet it. This is why your risk managers are very, very important. I know a lot of us run away from risk managers. We call them police.
Monitors.
They are not, right? So we need to differentiate them, and probably maybe into the audit questions. Now, your risk managers are the guys that are supposed to help you achieve your objective. And how do they do that? They look for what will not make you achieve your objective. So they think in the other way. So you say you are going from Yaba to Ikeja. The risk manager is thinking, what can make us not get to Ikeja? And they start identifying those things. And they come and meet you that you need to do this, you need to do this. You see them as troubling you, but they are telling you what you need to be aware of. Now, when the regulator comes and they are able to see your risk register, your risk register would have documented the things that are good, that are not good, that are doing well. If they can't find it, they know that your environment is not mature, therefore we need to start from the beginning. But if they come and your risk manager has done proper documentation, they have a little comfort. In fact, they will say they want to talk to your risk manager first. When they speak to your risk manager and is able to give them an assurance. Now, your risk manager cannot give you assurance if he doesn't know what you're doing. There were times where product manager go to the market, cause trouble, and come back to come and say, Wale, what do we do? Now, what should have happened is that before you go to the market, ask Wale, we are going to the market, what do you think? Wale and every risk manager will tell you, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Then you will know, because not knowing that something can cause trouble is actually what causes trouble. Once you know that doing something can cause you trouble, then you know how to put your house in order. But when you don't know, shock comes in and you start running. So my advice is make your risk manager, empower them, support them, because they will keep you away from trouble. Thank you.
Awesome. You said something that I really like about the physical access, because most people dwell on the transactions. And this was a real big debate, at some point. And I'm hoping that person, from one fintech is here. And we kept on arguing. I said, this AIP that you're on right now, and you're getting ready for your commercial license, the audit before your commercial license, take care of physical access control. I'm like, no, you're all over the place.
No, it's very important. Very important. In fact, when we are expecting, of course, we have a training for staff. We have a training for support staff. Support staffs are cleaner and security. We take them through information security, compliance, data protection training, right? And we tell them nobody walks into the organization without being documented. So even it is the regulator themselves that is telling us, so people are too strict. Of course, we tell them that regulator is coming, so be on your guard, don't sleep, right? But the usual practice is that we take them through that process. Having a weak physical control can become a regulatory non-compliance for you. Because once your physical control is broken, the defense is -1. Once you have support staff that you are not even sure whether they are even planted, your defense is getting weaker. And these guys have access to every part of your building. What stops them from bringing a router or a USB to where they clean? And you trust them, you send them everywhere. Some of you give them your access card. So it's very important, actually. It's very important.
Awesome. So to wrap up this stage, we woke up one morning and then we saw a headline that we've not seen for at least maybe 7 or 5 years in Nigeria. The central bank revoked licenses of almost 143 fintechs, microfinance banks, mortgage banks, and everybody was like, hey, stuff is changing. In this last question for this segment, I'd like to ask, what's in your view, what are the things that fintechs overlook concerning licensing that would normally land them in trouble, leading to this kind of problem of revoking your license?
So for every license, there's expectation. So the expectation could be submit your business continuity plan. It's documented in the requirements. Submit your business continuity plan test results. It is documented in your documentation. Some people, the regulation probably says do business continuity test. Some people will say we'll do it quarterly. They said they will do it quarterly, but they don't even submit one. So once you don't do that, and these things are like dashboard in their offices. Once you don't do it and they continue to monitor that, there are infractions. The complaints of customers also come to them. The entities that they mention, right? With data, they can see whether 10 customers have complained and 3 of them have mentioned you. And they look at their compliance record. You have not done anything. Then there's a problem there. So those basic things that has to do with the requirement of the standard, the customer maybe fraud that you need to report, the customer complaints that you need to file, the monthly report that you need to send, KYC that you are not meeting. All of those things, they become like a slippery ground in the future, such that once a little thing happen, then all of those small things that you overlook, that these ones are not material, they now become a big problem. So what I like I said, people overlook the basic requirements that is documented in the license, or the basic elements of the license requirements. Those are the things that fintech needs to take home and make into BAU. Once you make them into BAU, business as usual, and you are carrying them out on a daily basis, it is unlikely, of course, you will have challenges, but it's unlikely that you will not be able to meet that regulator. And so again, there could be So because they are of resources, Japa, for instance, it is possible that the knowledge house is moving, right? Don't have one man in your house that can do everything. Try and make sure that the person documents. Because if there's no documentation, the person is in Canada, you are calling the person is working, you cannot pick call, you'll be in trouble. So make sure that you document. If you have the little cash, it's not a lot of money, do ISO 9001, which is satisfying customers through process documentation. That will help you to take the knowledge of your key staff and put it on paper. And in that way, you can manage the key man risk that usually would affect small organization.
Awesome.